Ooh, that's good. Oh, that's jet fuel. That's some good espresso, but perhaps I shouldn't be drinking strong espresso when I already have some rumblies in my tumblies. TMI.
Yeah.
This is Geek Therapy Radio.
What are we waiting for?
And now your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger.
Welcome to Midweek Geek here on Geek Therapy Radio. I am your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger, and I am constipated with spiciness over gaming smartphones. Actually, just calling them gaming smartphones. I have been unreasonably fired up about this for the past couple years since we started calling phones gaming phones in modern times. I'm not talking about old gaming phones like the failed the N-Gage, Nokia N-Gage, and the really cool actually Sony Xperia Play that had basically built-in slide out PSP controls. That's all fine and dandy, especially the Xperia Play. That was all great. What I'm talking about is, Asus has a new gaming phone, the second generation of their Asus ROG Phone 2 or 2 phone, whatever it's called. We've had the Razer gaming phones, a couple generations of that. And here's basically the difference over a normal smartphone, like a Galaxy Note 9 or 10 or whatever you have, Google Pixel. Basically, the differences between a gaming phone, which is hype, pure hype, is that it usually has a ridiculous and unnecessary amount of RAM. I think the Asus ROG Phone 2 that's coming out soon has 12 gigabytes of RAM. There's probably a lot of you listening to this show right now or watching on YouTube that don't have 12 gigs in your computer that you're listening to the show with. That's unnecessary. 12 gigs in a smartphone? Sorry, never. Never will that be necessary in the, I don't want to say that. I was going to say near future. Who knows what technology holds, but as of right now, 12 gigs, excessive. Perhaps the biggest factor in what makes it a gaming phone versus a normal phone is the refresh rate. So you have refresh rates on a typical phone, like the Note 9 that's in my pocket. I believe that's 60 frames a second. That's normal. That's average for everything, 60 frames a second. With a gaming phone, you have 90 frames a second, 120 frames a second. I don't think we're at 240. Are we at 240 yet? Anyways, it's getting there. But the point is that it's higher refresh rates, a lot more RAM, and the storage is usually faster. And it probably has, actually, up until recently, No. Well, okay, it has the latest generation of SoCs. So a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 Plus and what have you. So basically it takes the state-of-the-art chip that's available in the latest flagships from any manufacturer, just pairs that same chip with a bunch of unnecessary RAM and higher refresh rate screens. Boom, bam, you have a gaming phone. But here's why it will never be a gaming phone to me, and here's what it needs to be a gaming phone. And here's what I hope that Google cashes in on with the upcoming Stadia release, or the release of the Stadia service in November. Without physical controls, it is not a gaming phone. So picture a Sony PSP. You've got the screen flanked by, in portrait mode, the physical controls. If you made the Sony PSP a smartphone, that would be a gaming phone. It already fit in our pocket. We already fit it in our pocket since 2006. We have phones in our pockets already that are basically the same size as a Sony PSP. If you just add physical controls to the gaming phone, you change the game forever. Yes, pun intended. Until a smartphone company puts physical controls on their phone, or back on their phone, if Sony wants to get into the game again, until that phone has physical controls and not just touch-sensitive capacitive buttons on the shoulders or anything like that, no physical controls, it is not a gaming phone, at least in my opinion, and in tons of other people's opinions. If it's just a glorified smartphone with way more RAM, there's no difference between what you're doing on a gaming smartphone and what a 4-year-old is doing on an iPad. Actually, yeah, there is a difference. Let's assume that 4-year-old's parents are baller status and they gave their 4-year-old kid a iPad Pro to play games on, to play Fruit Ninja or Candy Crush or whatever on. So you have a device, the iPad Pro. Here's the difference between an iPad Pro and a gaming smartphone. Let's use the Asus ROG Phone 2 as an example with 12 gigabytes. The iPad Pro at top spec has between 4 and 6 gigabytes. So the phone has 2 to 3 times more RAM than a freaking iPad Pro. There's no difference in the gaming experience as far as rubbing the screen is concerned. Even the iPad Pro has high refresh rates, everything like that. So in the actual experience of rubbing screens, nothing will replace the tactile feel of physical controls. So I have a hard time digesting that a gaming phone without physical controls has the audacity to be called a gaming phone just because it has ridiculous, unnecessary amounts of RAM and a high refresh rate screen. But here is where I think things can take a turn for the better. And I think that Google has a major opportunity on their hands with the upcoming release of Google Stadia, the Google Stadia service, game streaming service, in November. If Google doesn't release a Stadia version of the Google Pixel, so let's call it the Google Pixel Stadia smartphone. If they don't release that and have physical controls either slide out or in landscape mode, they will be leaving so much money on the table, so much potential on the table. And here's what I mean by that. So you have Google Stadia, which is going to be a game streaming service. Effectively, for those unaware, it's going to be like Netflix, but for video games. Game streaming is nothing new. It's been out since, around 2014-ish with NVIDIA game streaming and GeForce Now and everything like that. I had it on my NVIDIA Shield tablet back in 2014. But a big, huge company like Google stepping up to do a service like game streaming, that is going to propel the technology all the more forward. And by propel forward, I mean get the lag right. Latency. That's going to be the big issue with game streaming. Regardless, you can game stream anywhere. You can game stream already using Google Stadia. You're going to be able to game stream to your smartphone. Doesn't matter what kind of smartphone. Doesn't have to be a Google smartphone. You can stream it to your tablet. You can stream it to your gaming PC, which that's a whole nother can of worms we won't get into. You can do it to your Google Chromecast or whatever. That's what game streaming is. So why wouldn't you put out a smartphone to coincide with Google Stadia with built-in controls and include a bundle with, a subscription to Google Stadia in the first place? Basically pair the launch of Google Stadia with a specific Google Stadia or Pixel Stadia, Stadia Pixel, whatever, Google smartphone with physical controls. That would get people more inclined to use their service. Would you rather play Fortnite or PUBG or whatever AAA title rubbing a friggin' screen or using Xbox or PlayStation-like physical controls? There's only one right answer to that. For 99.9% of people, and there's going to be that 0.1% of people that's going to be a stick in the mud and just disagree because they want to stand out. Most people are going to want the physical controls for a service like Google Stadia. I'm not saying that people won't use Google Stadia on a tablet or a smartphone and just rub the screens because that's what they have to do. But you're telling me in 2019 we can't come up with a smartphone like the Sony Xperia Play that they came out with, I think it was 2011 or so. Why can't we do that now? And we have game streaming right here on the horizon in a couple months from a major company like Google. Stop calling gaming smartphones when they don't have physical controls. And here's my argument too. It's kind of a little buyer's guide when it comes to gaming phones. And this is just opinion. This is my opinion warning. Don't buy gaming smartphones. Don't buy it. Don't buy into the hype. Don't pay any attention to it. You don't need 12 gigabytes of RAM ever in a smartphone. Maybe in the future you might, but as of now you won't. Let's say you were in the future when you need 12 gigabytes of RAM in your smartphone. By then the CPU won't be able to handle whatever apps are out at the time you need 12 gigs on your smartphone. The CPU will be obsolete by that time. You don't need a gaming smartphone now. Don't spend the money on it. That's my advice right now. If at anything, to send the signal to the manufacturers that we won't buy into this stupid hype. Now, it's perfectly okay. It's kind of pedantic of me, but it's perfectly okay if you have that same device, the Asus ROG phone, whatever, just don't call it a gaming phone. Have the 12 gigs of RAM, have the high refresh rate, but just advertise, we got a super high refresh rate and 12 gigs of RAM, whatever. Don't slap the gaming thing on there. You know, it's silly. It's not a game. You're just rubbing your fingers still on a screen that has 12 gigabytes of RAM and a flagship system on a chip, just like any other flagship smartphone, minus the higher refresh rates. Without repeating myself too much, to pinpoint this, to kind of bring us all to a head, to summarize, TLDR, gaming smartphones are stupid because they don't have physical controls. Google is about to release this Stadia game stream service, so they better release a Google Pixel Stadia phone with physical controls. And I'll end with this last point. It would be awesome for emulation. I know that's what a lot of you are thinking, including me. Man, why am I getting so spicy over gaming phones? It's just words, but it's hype and it's stupid. Don't waste your money on it. There's so much opportunity. Thank you for listening to Geek Therapy Radio for Midweek Geek this week. Hope you guys are having a good week. Remember to embrace your inner geek, lean into your inner geek, share your geek thing with others. We're all a community of like-minded individuals when it comes to our geek things. We're all geeks about something. So whether you're a geek about RC aircraft, someone else might be a geek about building guitars or what have you, gaming PCs, anything like that. But what we have in common is that we're all geeks, and that's a beautiful thing. And sometimes in life, it's good and it's therapeutic to lean into your geek thing to get us through the mundane, the depressing, whatever's weighing on us. Don't be afraid to pick up that easel, pick up that paintbrush again, and just be creative. Indulge your inner geek just for a little bit, a few minutes each week if you can. It will do all the help in the world for you if you engage in those activities in a healthy way. But I'm done rambling. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the content. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And other than that, take care, and I will see you next week for more Midweek Geek. But before that, this weekend for Geek Therapy Radio. I'm all over the place, baby. I'm done.